I am 92 years old. I have more money than I will ever spend. I have built companies, signed deals that made headlines, and sat in rooms where the fate of thousands of people was decided by my signature alone. And I am telling you right now, none of it prepared me for what I know today. I thought I had time. I thought the hard work was the sacrifice and the reward would come later. That life would slow down once I had enough. That the people I loved would still be there when I finally looked up from my desk. I was wrong. Twice in my life, my heart stopped. The first time, I was 67. Massive cardiac arrest. My assistant found me on the floor of my office at 11 at night. Not my wife, not my son, my assistant. The second time, I was 84. I was alone in a hospital room when it happened. The machines screamed. Nurses rushed in. And in those seconds, those terrifying silent seconds where everything goes still, not $1 followed me there. Not one deal mattered. Not one title. Not one achievement that I had spent decades bleeding for. Both times I came back, and both times I returned to a life I had quietly, slowly, completely abandoned. There is something no one tells you about becoming successful. The more you build outside of yourself, the more you lose inside. And by the time you notice, by the time you feel the emptiness, you have already spent the years you can never buy back. I have 9 figures in the bank. I would trade most of it for one Sunday morning I threw away in 1987 because I had a conference call. Time is the only currency that was always running out, and I spent mine like it was infinite. This is not a story about money. This is a warning, and I only hope you are young enough that it still matters. I grew up with nothing, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. My father worked in a factory. My mother cleaned houses. We lived in a small apartment where the walls were thin enough that I could hear the neighbors argue every night. I promised myself, as a child lying in that bed, that I would never live like that. That promise became my religion. By the time I was 24, I had started my first business. Nothing glamorous, a small trading company. I wore the same 2 suits for 3 years and told everyone I was fine. I was hungry, not just for food, but for something I could not even name yet. I thought it was success. I thought it was money. I thought it was the feeling of never being that child again. So I worked in a way that most people will never understand unless they have lived it. 16-hour days were normal. I missed birthdays. I missed dinners. I missed my son's first steps because I was on a flight to close a deal that today I cannot even remember the details of. My wife, her name was Margaret. She never complained, not once. That is the part that haunts me most. She never complained because she believed in me. She told me, early in our marriage, that she knew I was going somewhere. She said it with pride, with love, and I used that love like fuel. I told myself I was doing it for her, for our family, for the life I was going to give them, someday. But someday is a word that steals from you in silence. While I was building, Margaret was living. She was raising our son. She was having quiet dinners alone. She was watching our boy grow up and learning, slowly, not to expect me at the table. I remember one evening, my son was maybe 8 years old. I came home late as always. He was still awake. He ran to the door when he heard me come in. And I remember feeling irritated, not joyful, irritated because I was tired and I had calls in the morning and I just needed silence. I told him to go back to bed. He did. He did not argue. He did not cry. He just turned around and walked back down the hall. I have thought about that moment almost every day for the last 30 years, because that was the night something changed in him. I did not see it then. I was too busy. But children are not waiting for the perfect moment to need you. They need you in the ordinary ones. The Tuesday evenings, the quiet Saturday mornings, the small forgettable moments that are in fact not forgettable at all. They remember everything, and slowly, without a single argument, without a single dramatic moment, my son stopped running to the door. I thought I had time to fix it. I thought there would be a moment later when things slowed down and I would sit with him and explain everything, that he would understand, that he would see what I had sacrificed and why, and that we would be close again. Later never came, not the way I imagined it. Margaret was diagnosed in the spring. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. The doctor used words I had heard before. Aggressive, fast-moving. Limited options. I had sat across from doctors in boardrooms before, listening to hard news, and I always knew what to do. I always had a next step, a solution, a person to call. This time I had nothing. I remember sitting in the parking lot of that hospital for 2 hours, just sitting, not calling anyone, not checking my phone, just sitting in a car that cost more than my father earned in a decade, completely, utterly powerless. For the first time in 40 years, money had no answer. I hired the best specialists in the world. I flew them in. I paid for treatments that most people will never have access to. I turned my entire fortune toward one single purpose, saving her. And I want to be honest with you, for a moment, I believed it would work, because that is what wealth teaches you. It teaches you that most problems have a price, that if you can write the check, you can change the outcome. I had lived my entire life inside that belief. Margaret lived 14 more months. 14 months. And in those 14 months, I finally became the man she had waited for her entire life. I was present. I was home. I held her hand in the morning. I made her tea badly, and she laughed at me for it. I sat beside her in silence and felt for the first time that silence was not wasted time. I was there, and she would look at me sometimes in the evenings when the light came through the window, and she would smile in a way that broke me completely, not because she was happy, but because I could see in that smile everything she had never said. She had waited so long for this version of me, and I had arrived too late. The morning she passed, I was holding her hand. She did not say anything profound. She did not give me a final speech. She just closed her eyes, and the room became the quietest place I have ever been in my life. I sat there for a long time. I thought about every conference call I had chosen over dinner, every weekend I had turned into a work day, every time she had stood at the door watching me leave, and I had not turned back to look at her. Every small moment I had told myself did not matter. They all mattered. They were all it was ever about. 6 months after Margaret died, I had my first cardiac arrest. Some doctors said it was physical. I believe it was something else. I believe a body can only carry so much grief before it surrenders. I woke up in a hospital bed. My son was there. He had flown in. He was sitting in the corner of the room. And when I opened my eyes, he looked at me with an expression I will never forget. It was not love. It was not anger. It was something worse. It was distance. The polite, quiet distance of a man who had learned, as a boy, not to need his father too much. And lying there, with tubes in my arms and machines beside my bed, I finally understood the true cost of everything I had built. I had bought a life, and I had paid for it with my actual life. I want to tell you something that took me 80 years to understand, and I need you to hear it not as a story about an old man, but as a mirror held up to your own life. Right now, today, we are all living under the same lie. The lie says that life is divided into two parts: the part where you sacrifice and the part where you finally enjoy, the part where you work and the part where you live. We tell ourselves that the suffering is temporary, that the absence is necessary, that the people who love us will understand, and that understanding will keep them whole until we return. It is a lie. There is no second part. There is only now. There is only this Tuesday, this dinner, this phone call you did not make, this moment your child reached for you, and you were physically present, but mentally 1,000 miles away. I built an empire. I built it on the quiet sacrifices of people who loved me. I used their patience like a resource. I spent their time like it belonged to me. And because they never sent me an invoice, because love does not bill you, I convinced myself the cost was zero. The cost was everything. Let me tell you what I know about success now. Success that cost you your marriage is not success. It is a trade you made without reading the contract. Success that makes your children strangers is not success. It is a loss dressed in an expensive suit. Success that arrives after the people you loved are gone, or after they have quietly stopped waiting, is the loneliest place a human being can stand. I thought I had time. I thought the relationships would repair themselves. That love was elastic enough to survive years of neglect. that I could disappear for decades and return and find everything warm and waiting. I was wrong. Love is patient, but it is not infinite. People do not leave all at once. They leave slowly, quietly, in small moments of disappointment that stack up over years. One day you look up, and the distance between you and the people you love is so wide and so old that neither of you knows how to cross it anymore. This is not only a story about marriage. This is not only a story about children. This is about every human being who has ever told themselves that the living would begin later. Later when the project is done. Later when the money is enough. Later when things slow down. Later never came for me, and I am 92 years old, telling you, from the other side of a life fully lived and deeply regretted in equal measure, that later is not a place you arrive at. It is a place you create right now, or you never find it at all. The work will always be there. The inbox will always be full. There will always be one more thing demanding your time and your focus and your presence. But your child will only be 8 years old once. Your partner will only wait so long before the waiting becomes simply the way things are. Your parents will only be alive for a certain number of winters. And you will only have so many mornings where you wake up and still have the chance to choose differently. I was brilliant at business. I understood markets, timing, risk, leverage. But I did not understand the most important economy of all, the economy of moments. Every moment you spend is spent. It does not return. It does not compound. It does not earn interest. It is gone permanently the second it passes. And what you chose to spend it on, that is your real biography, not your net worth, not your title, not the size of the company you built, or the deals you closed, or the rooms you sat in. What did you spend your moments on? That is the only question that will matter at the end. I know the answer to that question for my own life, and I would give everything, every company, every dollar, every headline to go back and spend even a fraction of those moments differently. I thought I had time. I was wrong. And the worst part, I always knew. Somewhere, underneath all the ambition and the motion and the noise, I always knew. I just chose not to stop. So now I am speaking directly to you. Not to the version of you that is busy. Not to the version of you that has plans and goals and a life that is moving very fast in a direction you have chosen. I am speaking to the quiet part of you, the part that already knows, because I believe that most people who are making my mistake are not making it in ignorance. They are making it in silence. They feel it, in the car, on the way home, in the middle of the night when the house is still, in the small moments when someone they love looks at them with tired eyes and says nothing, because they have already said it before and nothing changed. You feel it, and then the morning comes, and the motion starts again, and the feeling gets buried under the weight of everything urgent. I know, I lived there for 40 years, but I need you to understand something. The urgency is an illusion. Almost nothing you are treating as an emergency today will matter in 10 years. The deal, the deadline, the meeting that cannot be moved, the project that needs just a little more of your time. In 10 years, you will not remember most of it. It will blur into the background of a life that passed very quickly. But the people will not blur. The moments will not blur. The night you chose to stay late instead of going home. Your child remembers that, not consciously, not with anger, but in the way they learned, quietly, what to expect from you, in the way they stopped asking, in the way love slowly became something formal between you, polite, correct, and completely hollow. That does not blur. I am 92 years old. I have watched friends die. I have watched people I respected spend their final years in the same quiet devastation I have known, surrounded by the evidence of their success and completely alone inside it. And I have never, not once, heard a person at the end of their life say they wish they had worked more. Not once. But I have heard the other thing. I have heard it in hospital rooms and in the silence of old houses and in the voices of men and women who built everything and somehow ended up with nothing that mattered. I wish I had been there more. I wish I had said it more. I wish I had chosen them just once over the thing that felt so important in that moment. I wish I had understood earlier that love is not something you return to. It is something you maintain. daily, in small, ordinary, irreplaceable moments. Do not make my mistake, please. I am not telling you to stop working. I am not telling you that ambition is wrong or that success is meaningless. I am telling you that success without presence is a beautiful building with no one living inside it. I am telling you that the people in your life are not waiting at a finish line. They are walking beside you right now. And every day you are too busy to walk with them. They walk a little further ahead. And eventually the distance becomes too great. And you are left standing at a finish line that no longer means anything. Alone, accomplished, and finally, devastatingly available. Do not wait until you are lying in a hospital bed. Do not wait until the house is quiet, in a way that never goes away. Do not wait until you are 92 years old, with enough money to buy almost anything, and the only things you want are the moments you already spent. I thought I had time, later never came, and the ones I loved the most deserved better than a man who always meant to show up. Be there now, while they are still there, while you still can. That is all I have. That is everything.